Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. This episode recapping week 3 of March 2024. Chris, how's it going?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to the radio dial.
Oh, man.
God, that was cringeworthy, huh? There's no dial in radio, especially in podcasts. There's no dial.
Was that a couple days in a row? I remember the first time.
Yeah, he kept on. He did it for the first day, and then they just kept on bringing it back because it's Jim. But yeah, man, good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You know, last week was challenging. Doing this thing by yourself is a challenge.
Well, I think you just gotta because you know what you want to talk about. You just got it's good to have a discussion.
Yeah, but there's no one to talk. There's no one to bounce ideas off.
There's no one to cut you off on Zoom like me.
Exactly. I'll keep on going forever. Exactly.
But you kept the phones posted. That's the fans posted. It's what we're here to do. And after being welcomed to the radio dial, the part that I don't know if it makes me cringe more or that I appreciate more is that when they're in different places, Jim likes to let the audience know that I'm here, you're there.
Sounds like you don't have to do that, man. They don't need to know.
We're there.
It's funny. It's good. It was actually sounded pretty good. It wasn't bad. Not a lot of delay.
They're great at it. They're great at it now. I guess maybe we'll get to this in a second, perhaps. But I definitely want to dive into that because I think it's going to impact the future of the show with Jim on the road. Just a little quick hit up top is that Sam is a guy who likes his stuff, right? He likes having swag. I thought a certain fan sent some stuff in, and he kind of discarded it a little bit.
Yeah, it was upsetting because it's a nice strong tie to me and you a little bit.
Yes, look,
Vicky, the fan, the caller sent Sam stuff from Wally's of Pontiac.
Look at that. Was there a visual? Was it a shirt like that? Did he get a shirt like that?
I didn't see the shirt that
maybe that's all they have.
They had a lot of different shirts, and Sam got shirts. He got some pretzels or potato chips or something like that. And he just kind of discarded them, threw them on the floor in the box. He said, "I'm not going to wear that shirt." Yeah. And Troy wanted his chips. Like, you can eat those chips? Yeah. And Sam was getting offended that he wanted chips. Like, man, you kind of threw them on the ground. So note to self, don't send Sam anything that he truly may not wear or want.
For a guy who does nothing but talk up these truck stops, you think that would have been like gold. I mean, he must have been in some kind of mood.
Maybe so.
I mean, come on. I mean, you got me a very lovely mug from Wally's that I love to use. Nice blue,
try to take care of people.
Dirty mug. So that's great. Speaking of snacks that made it into Vicky's gifts, Jim's doing his snacking, and but he relies on a certain app when he's on the road, and I guess he doesn't have a rental car during these times, I think it's that, and he also says like the nearby places close early. We've been in those situations where you're at the hotel, and even in the little store downstairs, he's a comic. It's late when he gets back. That stuff closes at a certain time. So I guess part of me understands, but I agree with Sam more. Like, I don't know why you're Ubering snacks when you're already consuming way too much bad food. Get a Domino's. I agree with Sam.
And then plan ahead, maybe, at 11 o'clock at night, you may want something.
In New York.
Or even if we get into town, you're going to get from the airport to, just stop off and get some stuff there, load up. And he didn't do that. So his order on Uber Eats were 2 Diet Cokes, I think cheese nips, some pretzels, and maybe some RX bars, but I'm not sure if everything got there.
Yeah, and there's 10 RX bars. You got to keep it healthy with the cheese nips and the Diet Kirks. You got to throw some health food in there. And it went as all things do with Jim. It was just a completely normal interaction when the guy delivered it, right? It was on the up and up, or no?
Yeah, I mean, the guy delivered it. He got paid. No, of course not. The guy said he needed to see Jim's ID, which is weird. Anyway, he had to take a photo of it. I mean, Jim said, "I'll show it to you," but I wouldn't let anybody take a photo of my ID.
For cheese nips? No.
For cheese nips, exactly. So it was an ordeal, and it was a big problem. Of course, Jim had to maybe write a letter or a tweet or something about it. We'll talk about that later. But, so he, it was just this whole thing. And then on top of it, I don't think he got all his RX bars that he thought he was going to get. So
yeah, there's some around the order. And I think the guy at maybe the front desk of the hotel offered to show his ID, and Jim's like, I don't do that. And I'm definitely not. If I Uber Eats anything, I'm not showing my ID.
No.
That's why I'm a DoorDash guy. He did do some good eating though, so far. So the road trip, you correct me if I'm wrong. It was Austin to Oklahoma City, right?
That's correct. So yeah, he
Okay.
went to Austin, and you mentioned earlier about he didn't have a rental car. Excuse me, he waited to get his rental car until the day he had to do the road trip from Austin to Oklahoma
Oh,
City.
right, right.
So he didn't get that until then. And it was delivered to him. But yeah, he got a chance to partake in some great barbecue. Now, if you remember, when he was doing Bert's stuff, he was flying back with Bert on the private jet, and they
Yeah.
had some great barbecue, and he really loved it. And all the guys were like, "Hey, man, you should have barbecue when you're in these cities." And so I think they convinced him, or someone did, and he went to, I think it's Terry Black's in Austin, and had some great barbecue, and was able to kind of circumvent the line because somebody knew somebody, and they moved him up, and they just had this incredible spread. If you saw it on Instagram, it looked terrific. When you go to these places, you got to do it. I went to Kansas City, and I had Arthur Bryant's, which is a well-known barbecue place there. It was just so good. And then here in Chicago is Twin Anchors,
Yeah.
which is Frank Sinatra's favorite place in Chicago. Have you ever, or have you
Yeah.
ever gone to Twin
So
Anchors?
I went several years ago. I was in the city with some buddies from college. We went and yeah, meat just falls off the bone. Great
Oh, it's
barbecue
great.
sauce.
And
It is
there's a
absolutely
booth.
delicious.
They point out where this is Frank Sinatra's booth, and there's like a phone, like an old time phone on
Yeah.
the wall there that he used to have. So yeah, it's historic and great food.
I was a quick inside scoop on Chicago food. I was a bit worried about Twin Acres because the same people I knew pumping up Pequod's pizza, that is not, it's not nearly the best pizza in Chicago. Uh, like Twin Acres. Well, Twin Acres delivered.
Mm.
It was delicious. I would go there again.
It's a great place, and it's
Absolutely.
perfect size. It's a small little joint on the corner. It's great.
Absolutely. And just as Jim, actually no, let me slow down a second because
Yeah.
so in addition to this road trip, the good part is, and when you kind of hear it's going to be this way, you get excited as a fan because Nikki's joining him on this road trip. And that's not always the case. So I feel like when you hear it as a fan of Jim, I feel like people who really appreciate Jim are also fans of Nikki now. And Nikki sent me a very nice note after the Forbes article I did on them. So
Oh,
that's
that's
really
nice.
kind of her to do. I'm glad she enjoyed it.
Of course, it's a great
But
article.
thank you, man. And thanks for everyone who checked it out. It's done pretty well. It's actually done really well. It did better than my Sydney Sweeney story. So good for Jim and Nikki. But
Well, I don't know if I was clicking enough for the Sydney Sweeney thing. I might have to increase and look at that again.
you might have to, there's some photos that I was sent to put in there that are
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
There you go.
But just as you're and most men are excited about Sydney Sweeney, I think Jim's fans are excited when we hear Nikki's on the road because we know there's me content. We know there's that it's got called a vlog this week, which I think is accurate. Web series vlog, and then they're also
Yeah,
doing the podcast. So more opportunities for Nikki content and Nikki and Jim content. I'm all about. I still got to watch the last episode of their YouTube show. It looks hilarious.
yeah. I watched that. It was really good. Jim was Nikki was
The
away and Jim was manic, of
kiss
course.
posters. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to
Yeah.
watch.
So yeah, Nikki was on the road with Jim, and it was kind of interesting. He brought up that it's like when he's talking to the guys on the show, it's like it's a little hard to be in the same room with somebody who wants to do IG stories all the time on the same couch that I'm trying to be on, and it's very funny. But you know who's shooting some of these IG stories? Jim, because they're not selfies, they're. So Jim is participating in the production of said IG stories. And then he complained that her feet were on him when he was trying to work. And it's trying to work and somebody's feet are on you. So I hope there's some content there that we can see.
I would love that. And there's a lot of content, and I think there is on Jim's socials now, especially Instagram. You've seen Jim do stories all the time, and that's because of Nikki. She's either showed him how to do everything or she's helping him do it. And I think, as much as he's got to watch her and listen to her do that, I think it's really good for him that he's doing a lot more.
Well, it helps when you have somebody with you to shoot something. You can be
Yes.
in something.
Other
You
set
don't
of
have to do a
hands.
selfie. Yeah, another set of hands, another set of eyes, another set of ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of ideas, we were kind of revisited this week on the show. There was a certain intern who became a producer who had a great idea for a tattoo, and the tattoo artist really understood broadcasting and technology. Of course, D-Bag and his old school microphone that this time, again, every time they revisit something, they point out new stuff. Sam pointed out that this time that D-Bag never used an old school microphone, but he got it tattooed.
And he left the radio career after being, on it for what, a year?
Yeah, and I believe he either was or still is also a Forbes contributor. I
Well,
don't
there
know if
you
he still
go.
is, but I think he was.
Well, that just makes me question Forbes now. Sorry, brother.
I completely get that. Completely understand.
But no, it was a horrible, horrible tattoo. And then
I want to
Terry,
see
the
that.
caller, Terry called in and he
Yes.
was just awful in his, explanation of why that, technically a microphone. Someone actually kind of did that previously on an episode of the Jim and Sam Town Square. A nerd by the name of Chris went through the whole thing exactly like Terry did. And I
Yeah.
apologize in advance because it probably was as boring as Terry was. But yeah, they are technically the same thing, but you never want to listen to your music through your microphone, nor do you want to speak into your speaker to
Yes.
catch your voice.
And the way the lines on, I remember the tattoo really do kind of indicate the direction they're going by
Yes.
the angle of the lines, I believe. So,
Yeah.
awful tattoo. Always love hearing about it. And to kind of counterbalance Terry, the awful caller, Libby, who calls in a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, she had a really good, like, kind of deep question, I thought, asking both Jim and Sam if they ever feel bad about any of their antics from O&A. And there were two different schools of thought that I appreciate both. You had you had Sam, who I think I mentioned it before, we talked about before that when something like Scorch comes up, Sam feels bad about that.
Yeah.
I think in our interview we kind of asked him about
Hmm.
the O&A days and what he feels bad about it, and he went into it a little bit. But yeah, I think he feels bad about stuff like Scorch, maybe some other stuff. Maybe it's the Family Guy growing up has a little bit of a conscience. But I also appreciate Jim's response, and I think that Sam could go under his blanket too. Where like it was crazy and it was hilarious, and we're just trying to be funny. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
And
sure what you
Jim,
make about that.
yeah, Jim also added, it's the reason why I have a nice home.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it paid
right,
for his nice home.
right.
It was the time. It was, 90s shock culture, if you will, but in the early
In the
2000s.
2000s, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was funny. It was fine, and they even, they talked about Lady Di, it's like, we tried to get her help. We tried to do a lot of different things, and we didn't pressure into doing anything. So yeah, they some things probably gnawed at them a little bit, but it was a different time and it made its laugh. So who knows?
Absolutely. I appreciated both of their outlooks on that. And something we really appreciated. And I don't know if we should consider her, I guess maybe she was a guest, but she's kind of Sam's co-host on his
Yeah.
other show. Mrs. Biggins popped in. And I feel like a lot of times when she stops in, like we love it, but it's always kind of short-lived. This time they had time to talk about some stuff and dissect some stuff. And what were some of those topics, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, she did pop in, and of course, I think Sam appreciates, and when Sam's away, Jim appreciates being able to talk to somebody in the room, right? I think they both
Yeah,
like
right.
being in person with somebody. So she popped in and was able to talk to Sam and Jim. Jim was a little bit quieter on the road, and that's understandable because it's hard on these Zoom things. We do it all the time where we don't know where to jump in. We kind of would have a real conversation. So yeah, Jim was having a little bit of challenge on that part, but yeah, she talked about. Sam brings up because he does it always in a funny way about when she got hit by the bus, no, the train, no, a tank this time. When she had her car accident when she was on that scooter and someone hit her. But Sam said that she has CTE because she did have a concussion. So
I
now
mean, it's possible, man.
now she's having CTE, but she's suffering some ill effects from having that
Yeah, we hope she's
concussion.
okay. She was so
Yes.
generous and kind to us, and we gave us a great interview with Sam. Yeah, and I guess it was St. Patrick's Day weekend, so she was Sam's alleged CTE, and also Matt was recovering from knee surgery. They were drinking, so
But they still partied. Yeah, they might be, ill, but they're still partying.
they're partying. And this got into, and then when they were revisiting, what happened to first they revisited what happened to her during her accident there, which she was not responsible for, and then we got into some talk, and it was interesting. Jim brought this up. We'll talk about Bob Kelly in a minute, but I thought Jim was actually more responsive from his hotel in this interview, even though they were both in studio,
Yeah,
because he was asking Nicole questions. He had more questions about the getting hit by the bus.
right. And then remember the EMT that had to check.
SEMT, busy
See,
finger,
yeah,
empathy index
exactly,
finger,
exactly.
perhaps.
Yeah, yeah,
And then he asked about I think their contract came up, and her contract is up sooner than Jim and Sam's, and theirs is October. So
yeah.
very
So
interesting. It's
let
getting
me
more interesting.
let me diverge a little bit on this. Now, you know, I have nothing but at my heart for love for Jim Norton, and Jim and Sam
Oh
is
yeah.
my favorite show. I do a
Sure.
podcast because of it. This felt to me this week that it was kind of audition week for when Jim retires. Sam and Nicole were terrific, absolutely terrific together. They are in their satisfying podcast, and they were good in this. Also, we had Bob and Sam, and we'll talk about that together. And Jim seemed to be kind of okay with it. So when Jim's bringing up, Nicole's contract and their contract, it seems weird to me. Like, I think Jim wants to leave this show that he's been the part of the most now, you know, in good hands. So it's almost like he's looking at his successor when it's his time to leave. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I think it's possible. I think Jim likes and gets along with everybody.
Yeah,
And I think there might be some truth to that where if like, oh, I'm not gonna do this show anymore, but if that show is still going, if the it's not gonna be Jim and Sam. It's not. Even if Troy and
Travis
Travis and
and
even
Mike and all
Montone
this.
are
Yeah,
still there. Yeah, if they're still there, it's not, it's whatever is next, it's gonna be that. It's not a continuation at all to me. Once Jim's
yeah,
gone, it's not that. But I think you could also say that this, and we asked Sam this directly, and he gave us a great answer. We were this is what our podcast is. We were way ahead of this. We had been talking about this even before Sam
right.
was on with Nicole. So that's another good reason for people to go back and watch it. But you can say that what him and Nicole have been doing at his studio has been the audition.
Yep, for sure.
So
And
they're
it's
trying out they're trying out the technicalities with the
and
producers.
everybody should just, I mean, more content I'm all for, and maybe
Right,
it'll
right.
be Jim and Nikki doing something, you know, at Sirius. It could be. They could do a once a week show like
Well,
Bonnie and Voss did. Who knows?
right. Yeah, and even if the everything worked technically with the broadcast and all the producers, like is Sirius on board too? I mean, we know that Nicole has a big show on
Yep.
it's one, so maybe she's probably already in their good graces, and maybe it would easily be okay, yeah, just go on that channel in that time slot with Sam.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, you gotta imagine too that Hits One and the type of show that Nicole does, that's a big, better money show than a cash cow, so to speak, than
yeah,
Jim
I
and
think it's
Sam. Even
fair.
though we love Jim and Sam, it just reaches a broader audience, because
I think it's
you know,
fair, and I
yeah,
think if she was able to do both somehow, I think that would be
yeah,
very good because I think Jim and Sam are still happy with what they're getting. I think it's
yeah,
still pretty decent, but yeah, Hits One is huge. It's she interviews Taylor Swift, so
right.
yeah, so that is very interesting, and I kind of agree with you. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know,
No,
and when we asked Jim, I think about his future, I want to say he was like maybe he's like, oh, maybe I don't know, maybe we'll see. So
yeah,
it's interesting, and they're working it out, and maybe we're seeing what it could look like. And yeah,
good.
whatever Jim does will be great, and his fans will support him too. So no animosity, at least if something. If people go their different ways this time, it's not going to be like the Opie and Anthony situation or Opie and Jim situation. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's not going to be aggression. It's not going to be, dissension, if you will. It's going to
right.
be, this is a time and celebration.
Yes, and there wasn't things happening in the Jim and Sam studio, at least so far, like what was happening over at Nickelodeon. I
Gosh.
actually
Have you
I
watched
actually
any of it?
no, I started it last night when just I was kind of like getting ready for bed, and I'm like, oh, I can't start this now. This seems amazing. Like
Yeah.
this seems like a very good documentary, and there's a lot here, and yeah, obviously unfortunately seems like some victims of various kinds of abuses, but it's something I want to like. I have time and I'm going to jump into, which is why I haven't watched anything. It's taken me 3 weeks to watch Nope, and I'm halfway through
Yeah.
it. So
So
we'll see.
you're busy, Phil. Yeah.
I'm
So of
a
course we're
busy guy.
talking
We'll see.
about the documentary. I think it's on HBO Max or whatever
Yeah,
that's
Quiet on the
called.
Set.
Quiet on the Set. The Dan, it's about Dan Schneider and being the executive producer of a lot of those hit shows on Nickelodeon. And it was it's I watched one episode, like you said, and I was like, I want to do more. I just can't, dedicate the time. And I guess it gets worse. So very
Yes.
interesting, very scary. And that led to a funny thing though that
Let
I
me
enjoyed.
let
Go
me
ahead. You
pump
have
the
something on
brakes real
that?
quick. Yes,
Yeah. Go
because
ahead.
I think that there was a golden opportunity that was missed because there was a co-host who was on a Nickelodeon program called Figure It Out, where he did ankle flip, and we have
Yes.
not heard any Sam and Dan Schneider jokes yet.
I did think about that. You're
Any.
absolutely right. I did think about when I was watching the show. It's like Sam has some inside information. Same timeline. Well, maybe a little earlier, right? Because
Yeah, I mean, there's a video of him pouring water all over himself for his ankles. There's
Please, no, yeah, you could tell. Remember, I don't know if you gotten this far, but they talk about Dan Snyder's foot fetish in there. So it's right
It's in
up.
the beginning, at least teased.
Yeah, it's right up,
Super weird.
Sam's alley with his ankles, real close to the toes. So maybe he did suckle on something of Sam's. We don't know. We
We
don't
don't know.
know.
We'll see, man. But I hope somebody realizes this or listens to the pod. All right, what else were you gonna say?
I was just going to say that, the conversation about this documentary, about the demise of that led to, what if Travis died and they made up stories about how awful he was and did a documentary and they named it The Fall of the House of Tefft. The Fall of the House of Tefft. And it was that fictional documentary. And they just had so many things to discuss about the fall of Tefft, including one of our favorites. What they discuss?
The terms of service.
That's right. The terms of service and how that was going down as a big part of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then Wednesday's show was there were more glitches, more things to work through because you had, instead of Nicole jumping in to kind of co-host, you had Bob Kelly. And I'm sitting there. I always restart it after I get back from dropping my kids off. So it's like I have a little time before I have to start my job. So I'm getting like coffee, maybe putting some dishes away. And I'm like, at least a good minute has gone by without anyone jumping on. I've never heard the theme song run on a loop for so long.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was walking the dog and I'm like, okay, when are they going to say welcome to the radio dial or something stupid like that?
Right,
Or
that we enjoy.
And I heard nothing. And then I was just trying to figure out where everybody was, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew Jim was still on the road and Bob was there. So was Bob in the studio? Nope. Where was Bob?
It was at the Sammy Castle, Sammy studio.
Right.
And I love that it's just typical Travis jumps on and it's like, okay, you're on.
Yeah.
And, like everyone's like, what happened? What's going on?
They couldn't hear the board music, but then Travis like, my voice is coming through the board to you guys because obviously Travis is at Sirius and Bob and Sam are at Sam's house, and so it was interesting to have them there, and then of course that led to Sam saying, I actually have the ability to shoot video here, because I have cameras, and all it takes is me pushing this one button, making fun of how serious they have the cameras, everything's there. They need somebody to push one button to record it. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. And I believe with the back to the theme song, I believe that Travis passed the buck to Montone, blame Montone for the whole thing.
That seems right up Travis's alley.
Right up his alley. And also I think it's towards the beginning after they fixed that issue that Jim was talking about the road trip. And I think it was maybe the day before when they were driving 6 hours from Austin to Oklahoma City. For the first 2 hours, he said Nikki was all caffeinated up, all caffeined up, and just yapping, which is awesome.
Yapping, just talking his ear off, which is great. Yeah. But the day before too, they're like, Jim, you're doing this road trip from Austin to Oklahoma City. You got to stop by a Buc-ee's. They're all over the place. Like, I am not going to do that. I don't care about it. I don't want. I'm like, you come on, man. Just stop by a Buc-ee's.
And
Jim stopped by a Buc-ee's. What was his thoughts?
He loved it, and he loved it for very Jim reasons. He didn't try all the fountain drinks like Sam has been preaching about, which I would definitely try one. He did try some food. He got some jerky, which I appreciate jerky, nice snack. But of course, his favorite thing is that he took part in what he calls a Hall of Fame dump,
Yes.
a legendary number 2,
15 minutes worth.
15 minutes, exactly. 15 minutes, likes to hang his coat on the stall, take out his phone. Like, even if it's really clean, like I appreciate if a public bathroom's really clean.
Absolutely.
I have no tolerance for, there's people in my life who are scared of public bathrooms and it drives me crazy. Well, I have to like leave a restaurant like early.
If you have a Code Brown situation.
Not my immediate family, but it just happens once in a while.
Right.
And it's odd. Just put some toilet paper down, be a grown up. But but they don't bother me, but I'm not going to hang out for like 15 minutes. I do sometimes you just hang your jacket, but like Jim sounded like he was very much like in his third place.
Yes, he was in his third place, right? To go back to the Starbucks thing of years ago, right? Yeah, I can find myself in a bathroom for 15 minutes. Now it's usually at home because I'm, scrolling through all my social media and whatnot.
Right. It's much different at home than
Yeah, most
public
different,
bathrooms.
but a public
Just gotta get
bathroom.
out of
But
there.
I'll tell you, when I went to Wally's and their public bathroom, they're so clean, they're so nice. It's like you can understand why you want to spend a
You
little bit of
appreciate
time
it.
there.
You
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it. Absolutely. Um, Something Jim appreciated and kind of got to the bottom of is he got an email from someone that kind of complaining that Jim's car dealership
Right.
had poor service and that the mechanics may have caused a gas leak with a car they bought there.
Yeah, it was
Brought in
unfortunate. I mean, you
fault.
think Jim's car dealership that he owns would do a lot better? We're talking, of course, of Jim Norton's Toyota dealership of Oklahoma City. I think he has one in Tulsa too. Not the same Jim Norton, obviously, but hilarious that he's getting an email because people get them mistaken on sending an email. You find Jim Norton, you send an email, hey, my car didn't do this and that kind of thing. So that is terrific. And of course, the guy celebrated that by saying, of course, something from Jim Norton's car dealership would have a gas leak because the real Jim Norton has a
It
lot
makes
of gas leaks.
perfect
So
sense.
makes
It was
perfect
so
sense. And it was great
perfect.
to see that photo of Jim
Yes.
on Instagram. He actually did go and visit the Jim Norton Toyota of Oklahoma City.
And I just for that guy to get his Jim's email, like Jim mentions it on the show sometimes, but like he had to get through some kind of Jim Norton, the comedian we know, Monster Rain Jim Norton, and then get that email. So he
Right.
sees like at least a picture of a guy like doing stand up or something on Jim's site or
He went to
somewhere.
Jim's site. It's not a car
Yeah.
dealership
So like
site.
how do you think that's a
It's
guy?
a
This
comedian
is
site.
the,
Yeah. It's
the
ridiculous.
Irishman Monster Rain guy is
Maybe he searched it like on Google and it popped up without going to a
maybe.
site.
Maybe.
Who
I just
knows?
love the idea of
Yeah.
him seeing Jim Norton do his Jim Norton things and being like, this guy owns a car dealership in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So a Toyota, amazing. And also that really, I mean, so back to the Bob Kelly day because
Sure.
Jim at one point left to uh get his coffee. He had to make a call to complain about his coffee, and I appreciate this. Like you order coffee, you got to do a show. Like I need my coffee right away. So if I call room service, like you're not getting a whole big meal. They should bring your coffee in a couple minutes to you. It's very easy.
And Jim
Uh,
stays at very, very nice places. It's not he's
yeah,
at La
yeah,
Quinta and trying to get
very
somebody to
nice.
get a coffee up there. It's earlier because it's an hour earlier because he's in could be even 2 hours. He could be Mountain Time or Central Time.
Absolutely. And this kind of made me realize that he was I think he was less a part of he was more in on the Nicole kind of segment than he was, or day, I should say, than Bob's. Bob was there all day. Nicole was just kind of for a break. But
Right.
it was noticeable that Jim even said at one point, like, they're like, hey, Jim. And he's like, oh, I'm just listening to you guys.
And Bob
Like this.
Bob's like, you're not supposed to listen. You're supposed to be participating in the thing. I just really enjoy it.
I appreciate it because I think Jim's being honest. He was enjoying the conversation. But I think that's going to happen a little bit when Jim's on the road.
Yeah.
Because he's saying he's going on the road more, and sometimes we'll see Nikki with him, sometimes we won't. But like, I think it's great that Jim is doing more dates. He has fans all over the country that want to see him. We want to see him in Chicago soon. Hopefully, he gets here soon.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I think it'll be great on the show. Hearing his stories on the road will be a new thing. Seeing where he is, the hotel,
Right. We
like
haven't
they're gonna
had
get
that.
all different kinds of stuff now that I think will really be good for the show. As long as they do it. But there will be these moments I think where like Jim's just like got to do something in the room
Yeah. And of
or
course he's doing
whatever.
something. He's doing something that we all know. He's complaining about something because he's kind of a Karen. I mean, he's not going to complain about you shouldn't be parking here. He'll complain about what corporate rigidity. Is that what
Yeah.
you call
Yes.
it?
Yes.
And so
Predictable.
he'll predictable exactly. He'll write in or he'll tweet about it or something, and that led to a really kind of funny discussion where Sam started to do. Because Jim's a proper gentleman and is writing in,
Yes.
he's going to do an English accent. So Sam was doing, Dear sirs and madams, I am Jim Norton of the Nortons of North Brunswick, doing the whole accent and
Yes.
that kind of stuff. And it led to Jim talking about there's a family crest, and Jim suggested his family crest would have, two testicles and a mini skirt.
That was right.
Incredible, incredible stuff. Well
That's
done.
funny. There were more wherever Jim is these days, you're going to hear some Jim McClure impressions. And the best part is not only is Jim doing it, brought it to the show and is doing it more and making everyone laugh. Sam's doing it a lot, and with Bob Kelly started doing it because Bob Kelly brought Jim McClure into his world and got him a watch with the Florida watch guy.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Kelly, is there working on the bonfire, so he knows Jim,
Yeah,
right? Jim McClure.
yeah.
So they, Bob didn't really heard, oh, you guys are doing this accent, and then he's like really funny, and he was tentative about doing it himself. It's like, he's a boss. I don't, but that didn't last too long, and he was right in there. But you're absolutely right. He hooked up McClure, I should say, with the Florida Rolex experience.
And did he get the same exact watch as Sam?
Same exact watch as Sam. And so Sam was just really upset. And he said, okay, yeah. And he said, okay, so let me get this right. When you have a hookup, because he has Bob as a hookup, you have this hookup, that hookup is only as valuable as other people that get hooked up. So for example, since McClure got hooked up with the same thing that Sam got hooked up with, is like, okay, does Bobby, put us at the same level? I thought I was really close to Bobby. So that hookup becomes less valuable. I can understand that, right?
Yes. Yes. It makes perfect sense. Just like Hot Dog getting into a Soho house. And yeah,
It ruins the whole thing. It's not important anymore. It's not cool anymore.
Absolutely.
Hot Dog gets there.
And speaking of Jim McClure, I was texting with somebody last night because I had the feeling that much like every voice we hear Jim do, this is something that's been brewing for a while. And I did get confirmation from somebody, a certain someone involved with the show last night, that Jim has been doing the Jim McClure voice behind the scenes for a couple of years.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love knowing that. I mean, it's why probably Sam has perfected it, because he's heard Jim do it so often too.
That's why you listen to our show, guys.
And then Miguel from Jim and Sam Dank Means put up a photo of Jim McClure, so you can see who Jim McClure
nice.
is.
Yeah, you got to follow Miguel. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. Just some quick hits here. I think we're getting a little short on time because I like the way we dove into some things though today. Bob's trying to watch us yelling, which is great, and we know how Jim handles that. Funny workout video with Bob where he's kind of almost had like a serious injury that I think he put up on his social.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, I can take it from here because this is something that I've experienced as well. And Sam brought up, Sam was redoing his studio, and getting new equipment and all that kind of stuff. And he said, it's a task. And someone did a gesture on the screen and something popped up and someone goes, what was that? Oh, Sam goes, oh, it's that stupid Apple reaction icons that pop up when you do things. So for example, if you do the hearts, let's see if it does it. You get hearts.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And if you do the thumbs up, let's see, come on, thumbs up. I'm not getting the thumbs up. There it is. You get thumbs up, and if 2 thumbs up, you get something even crazier.
Wow, man.
So make sure you turn those off because they will pop up at an inappropriate time if you're trying to do a podcast with the fella and you're not making any jokes, or you're on a business meeting and you do this, which you shouldn't be doing that in a business meeting.
That's how I end all mine.
That's right.
I think the last professional broadcaster should know to turn those things off.
Yeah, I think he did. He just got a new Mac, and so he didn't get to it.
And Thursday, a big day. Great Travis talk on Thursday. Travis dog's birthday. Happy belated birthday to the dog.
Absolutely.
Who had he's been treating himself like all month long. I gotta give him credit. He went to Disney 2 weeks ago, Disneyland, and I hadn't been to Disneyland in a long time. There's a lot of stuff. Mr. Dog gave me some great tips for a family vacation that we got coming up here. So I appreciate that. We talked about the Scott C art before. I don't like their little
postcard size that they say,
they're tiny. They got beady little eyes. So maybe there's a connection based on not what we've said about Travis, but Sam.
All right.
But I appreciate like look at my basement. I appreciate collecting something and really enjoying it. So every time he gets them, and they're like, Taylor Swift one is cool, and my daughter would love that. Yeah. Whenever he gets stuff like that him and his family appreciate, I am happy for him because that's awesome to collect something and wait for it. I don't know if I'd sleep in a car with a gentleman,
another man. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's kind of funny because my room, I'm trying to channel my inner Sam. I'm putting in monitors. I'm going to do better mics, better cameras, that kind of thing. Your room is channeling, your inner Travis with getting some, some cool art and some cool stuff back there with, your love of all things Marvel and whatnot. So so we could get there. So he, spent he said his birthday was really, going out to LA with his family and, seeing Jermaine and getting those paintings. He spent a little bit too much on those paintings.
Yes.
And Jim and Sam thought maybe that on his birthday he would be getting a special, maybe some pics sent to
Yeah,
him.
I love that a caller called in to remind everybody that that he likes those kind of
Yeah.
pics, and then they
You
went
know
in
why? He can see
more
them all
signs.
because his
Yeah,
DMs are open.
always wide open for a long time
Yes.
now, and I have pointed out, I believe, except Jim and Nikki's article, every Forbes article about Jim and Sam, I've pointed that out, and
Yeah, it's
Sam
great.
loves that.
And then also he had after he made his big purchases, I think he purchased three or four of the Scott C's uh, paintings, if you will.
Yeah,
And he asked Jermaine to pick them up and then ship them out to him
yep.
because that Jermaine's there. And the funniest part about that is you know he knows that Jermaine packs really well. But yeah, no, Jermaine will pack him up and get it to him. So
It's very
that was kind
nice.
of,
That's nice. You
yes,
don't have to worry about your stuff. That's great.
absolutely.
And you could identify with, he's very proud of his daughter, with what she does in track and field. I know you got the same thing going on.
Yeah, it was cool. They his daughter's much younger than mine. Mine is in her senior year of being a high jumper in college, and his daughter's just getting into it. And they're going to the same places that my daughter and I used to go. That's a
Very cool.
USATF, like National Junior Olympic Track and Field Championships. They're in Kansas City, Lexington. Oh God, the Kentucky game last night. We were recording Friday morning, and Kentucky just blew it in the March
Yeah,
Madness. But anyway,
yeah.
all these special places where you can go and do those things. So it's just I'm reliving my trips with my daughter as Travis and Lisa take trips with their daughter.
Very cool. It's very cool to share that and identify with the T-Dog. That kind of led to some Olympic talk, and real quick here, Mike. Mike, there was a news story that something like they're sending out like 300,000 condoms or something for, Olympic Village is supposed to be legendary.
Yeah,
And
they COVID's shut that down, and boy, they're
yeah,
back in business now. 300,000?
they're really back.
Holy
It's amazing.
smokes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I'm sure whatever condoms they use paid big money to send that many and have that their name probably attached to
Well,
this.
what does Mike think about that? Should they be using condoms? Wouldn't it be better not to? Because
Well, as you might think, he's a no for that, but his reason is that they should just let them breed superhumans, which I don't
superhuman
disagree with.
athletes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at
right.
superhuman athletes. Let's just do that.
Yes, agreed. And Mike pointed out he loves track and field.
He loves track and field.
Added to the Jim hates list this week. Jim hates the Olympics. He also hates fishing.
Right.
And you,
He hates the Olympics because, he thinks like shot put, what is the practicality of that moving on in life? And this got into really deep stuff with discussion of loving bands, and it was deep, but it was interesting. They had a lot of cool takes, and then of course he hates fishing because a caller reminded us all that he thinks that they're stupid prehistoric animals, and why would you go fish? They're stupid. So
I agree. And then I think you did or did not hate Bob's new song, Convertible Boy.
now I don't know if it's new because they had a studio version of it, and I don't remember when Bob sang this, but it
Oh,
is the absolute worst song because it's this sexy Bob voice. Convertible boy, looking so special. It's just very weird. And it gets stuck in your head, obviously, because I remembered how the melody went. I thought Jim only came up with those stupid songs, but Bob
Bob
has a
too.
couple.
Bob too.
Yeah.
That's why they're good buddies back in the
Yes.
day. Speaking of Jim, pushing more movies on interns, more old school movies. This time Jericho Mile. And Travis, I believe, looked it up, and it is a 1975 made-for-TV movie, The Jericho Mile.
Yeah. I mean, it
Awesome.
was,
I love that.
I have a special place in my heart for Jim on these things because I remember most of these older things
That's
and I
great.
love MASH and all those things. But yeah, it really derailed the conversation. They tried to circle it back to Teen Wolf and all these other things, and
I
Jim would
love it.
just diverge back
Yeah,
into these older things.
I thought it was amazing. Pretty much only one guest this week for our best
Right.
guest. It's got to be Paul Verzi, and Paul usually has a shot at our best guest, anyways. He's a fantastic guest. What do you think of this week with him?
He's fun. Yeah. I mean, you really like it. He comes in with a good energy and it really had a nice rapport with Sam. Of course, Jim's away, so it's hard to kind of have that connection when somebody's on Zoom, even though you and I have a great connection. But yeah, so they talked about, how Bob Kelly almost ruined Paul's vacation to Jamaica, because when Paul and his wife were in the airport heading to Jamaica, Bob was, sending him stories about how kidnappings are rampant in Jamaica, and it's really making him scared, just being a complete jerk. Those two do that Bone to Pick podcast together, right? Or something like that. And they talked about Jeffrey Dahmer. That was kind of funny how, how did he get these guys to go home with him? What was his pickup lines? And they had that kind of stuff. And then they finished up with him, which was kind of interesting, about how Paul said, you ever been like just sitting around and you remember something that made you laugh years ago and you just start laughing uncontrollably again? And I've done that. I'm sure you have as well. You just think about this stuff. Yeah. And then Sam told that story about E-Rock and Nathaniel, who they called Than, and the salad. I don't know if you remember that, but E-Rock had a salad. He put it on, and Than didn't like E-Rock, so he put it on top of the trash. And then they were getting ready to leave, and Nathaniel just kind of went crazy and smashed it and pushed it in there further. And as they were leaving to go get pizza, they asked E-Rock if they wanted to go with him. He goes, no, I got a salad upstairs waiting for me inside. And Sam just loved saying that and thinking about that and laughing about that. So
I love that. No, that's amazing. And let's get to line of the week. And I'm going to go first because I have a definite one as soon as I heard it. When they were talking with Nicole, and talking about how, her whole thing. And then they got into talking about organ donors. And Nicole goes, I'm an organ donor. And Sam goes, you're an organ receiver.
That was great. It was Sam's week, man. Sam was on fire.
He's just been, I feel like this whole year almost, he's just faster and maybe funnier than he's ever been.
I think he's learning from one of the masters of quick whips,
I think you would give him some props to that. I think he's an actually funny guy, and he's just, Jim Norton and those guys will rub off on you with how quick they are.
Absolutely. Yeah. So much so I have 3 and they're short. So I'm going to go through my quick 3 here. They were talking with Nicole as well. I'm sorry, they were talking to Nicole. They were talking with Jim, and Nikki, his wife, walked in the background, but she put a pillow over her face to cover her face as she walked in the background. And Sam said, no, it's not time for sex yet. A pillow.
It's amazing.
Do the math. And then Jim also was going on and on about how cool it was that TJ Miller, who was a guest last week, has his own brand of peanut butter. And he goes, I really need to get a product to sell. I need to sell a product. And Sam goes, how about comedy? Just great. And then the last one, which I thought was great too, is that, Bob was stating that Jim has no guy things. He's not a guy's guy. He doesn't have, a watch, because they're talking about the Rolex. He doesn't have any knives, because Bob has all these pocket knives and stuff, or cigars. Yeah. And Sam says, yeah, but his wife does. She has guy things. Just good. So yeah, it was incredible. Sam was quick. I give this week to Sam for line of the week. We do best guess. Sam had best lines. Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. And we just gave you guys 4 good ones. Another reason to listen to this show. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We appreciate you. And I appreciate you, Chris. Thanks for everything. And you're kind of holding the fort down in the next episode a bit.
Yeah, I got to do that service again. So I apologize in advance for everybody that hates me. But no, I will be tracking everything that happens in our show. We'll be talking about it. But you're going to be heading out to Disneyland soon?
The land of mouse.
There you go.
Some great Tefft tips. And checking out some new stuff there. And you guys will probably hear from me.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll get something from you. We'll add it into the show. We'll package it all up and deliver you another great episode here in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not dog bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.